This time on the Iron King Inc. YouTube channel, we're gonna go over the build of my 1978 Jeep CJ5. We're getting it ready for Easter Jeep Safari 2025. So those of you that have been following my channel saw me and Robert rescue this Jeep and bring it back to my house. So I did a little bit of messing around with it, and I really wanted to get this thing ready to go for just kind of fun wheeling, not anything hardcore, but going out having fun, not doing anything crazy. You can still see the damage that Robert did on the back when it came off of the trailer. So what I ended up doing was brought this thing to Mountain View Motorsports, and I have the owner here, Camo, and he's gonna bring you guys all the way through this thing on what he did and how we got this Jeep ready for Easter Jeep Safari 2025.
I'm Cameron McGillivray. I'm the owner of Mountain View Motorsports. I do a lot of fabrication stuff, a lot of side-by-side parts. I'm a wholesale dealer for rugged radios. If anybody needs anything, you know, I can hook you up on that and get everybody pretty much best prices listed online. And then I also do like a lot of CAD work and CNC plasma table stuff and some tube bending and a lot of 3D printing and stuff. I have some of my own products and everything on my website, and we'll link the website on the comment section.
So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and go through this Jeep. We're gonna start at the front and we're gonna go all the way to the back and show you exactly what we did to this thing to get it ready for Easter Jeep Safari. All right, well, let's start with the front of this thing. So you've done a whole bunch of work to this Jeep, and there's so many things to list that we need to start from the front and then work all the way to the back because there's just so much information here to digest. So let's start with the winch.
So this thing came in and it had an old solenoid pack that has like the 4 separate different solenoids, and it was bad. So we went ahead and got the newer updated version that has the actual controller box inside and got the winch going again.
This is pretty cool, and I sorry to interrupt you, but this was an actual factory Jeep winch that came with this thing from the factory. So I know that you probably didn't know this, but when we picked this thing up in Reno, the guy that bought this thing from the Jeep dealer in Reno spec'd it with that winch right there. You just prettied it up and made it actually work.
Yep. Yeah, and then we got new synthetic rope on it, so we're not worrying about cable breaking and stuff. And then I also wired into the solenoid a rocker switch, so we have a rocker switch on the dash now, so we can actuate the winch from sitting inside if you're going up anything.
And I actually didn't even look at the rocker switch, but I'm assuming it's this one right here.
Yeah.
The no-namer. Okay.
No labels on it yet. We're kind of been in a rush just to get it ready for you guys.
It was definitely a bit of a rush. There's some things that I don't say that they're not done. We just didn't make them 100% perfect. We're gonna bring it back and get all that done. But it's definitely good enough to go wheeling.
Yes.
So winch pretty much covered. Let's move on to the engine bay here.
Yeah, so engine-wise, didn't really do anything too crazy to the engine itself. Just kind of went through, resealed everything and gave it a little refresh tune-up, and then we put a Sniper EFI system on it.
Yep, just hiding right in there. I would think if the average person looked at this Jeep right now, they would still say, oh, it's a stock 258, right? You would never know unless you went underneath here and looked.
Yep.
That's key for rock crawling, by the way, key. If you've ever wheeled with a carburetor and then wheeled with EFI, they are not the same thing. You will never go back to a carburetor.
It's night and day difference. But yeah, and then working through the old harness had quite a few wires that were kind of like old and rotten and stuff. So I didn't do like a complete new harness, but we just kind of tore it out and replaced some of the bad wires and kind of rewired some stuff just to get it going for this. And then yeah, and pretty much other than that, just some new battery cables, new starter, just kind of the basics under the hood other than the Sniper.
Well, you actually took this thing out of the Jeep. So it wasn't just, you know, basic this was fully take it out of the Jeep, take the transmission apart, put a clutch in it, made it back together. And we're not even talking about how you took the entire body off of the Jeep.
It came off completely. Yeah, it was, I kind of started into it, and we originally just planned on doing the clutch and a couple of like the rear main seal, and then it kind of morphed into a lot more, and man, this thing just had a lot of oil leaks for a lot of years, and just the grime, like the skid plate was like 3 inches thick of just
I know, I got some text
sludge
from you, some nasty grams about how dirty it was.
Bad, so it just needed the frame off, and went through and just pressure washed everything, gave it a new coat of paint on the whole frame underneath, so that's all good, protected from the rust and everything.
Okay, well I think we've got engine covered pretty well.
Yeah.
Winch, it's a winch. It's a cool winch now. It was cool before, but it's more cool now.
Yes.
So I know it's kind of hard to tell, but the frame or the body was completely off of this thing and gone through. You also, since we're just working this way back, shock mounts, all of that's been repaired.
So yeah, the shock mounts were...
Let me get a light here really quick. All right, got it.
Yeah. So yeah, the shock mounts, one of them was like ripped halfway off, and the other one I think was a piece of all thread welded on top of the frame that was holding it on. So yeah, so I drew up some new ones, cut them out on the plasma table and welded those on. So yeah, new shock mounts there, new Bilstein shocks, and new steel braided brake lines.
Now, I thought you said there was some frame repairs here too. Did you see any that had to be fixed, or what was the deal there? Because I know that there was a bunch of random welds everywhere.
There was just a random plate on top of this one on this side. And
Okay.
I thought it maybe had frame damage underneath and somebody scabbed a plate on, and then I got it off and cleaned it up, and the frame was fine underneath. So I really don't know what that was about, but yeah.
Okay. All right, so front end covered. We're gonna talk about the axles a little bit later, but let's move on to the cage work and how you ended up with the design of this cage and how you got it all fitted.
Yeah.
How long did it take you?
So yeah, the stock cage, most of anybody that's familiar with Jeep stuff probably knows, they use like a roll bar style. So the A pillar and the B pillar have more of a roll bar style, where when you're sitting in it and that roll bar comes around, your head is really exposed if you roll it. And so we like to do an A to C pillar hoop and then the B pillar up. And then that really makes it a lot wider, which you can really notice here with the soft top on. Like the factory cage is about here where the B pillar is. So you gain a lot more head clearance there and a lot more safety if you hit a rollover.
So, and I don't really show a lot of like the rock crawling scene on my channel, but they see them every once in a while. They'll see the cars in the back and ask questions and stuff like that. This car is gonna be on its lid.
Oh,
If anyone has known the way I drive,
if Quentin's driving it, it'll be on its lid.
so the car needed to be safe, and the stock Jeep cage was just not gonna cut it. Now you see this and it looks spectacular, right? But what really brings these, cages into their own, especially the way that you built these, this is all integrated into the chassis itself. So
Yeah.
we knew it was gonna roll over. Knowing that means that I want to be able to actually use this car again once I roll it over again and get it back on its tires. What that means is we needed to integrate the cage into the frame of the Jeep so that when these bars contact and all that force is applied from the ground hitting it, it doesn't go into the tub, right? It goes into the frame, and then all of the force is spread out between that, so no real damage occurs, and we'll get into that now.
So yeah, the old cage just had a tube that came straight down here, and then it had a big 4-bolt plate, and then it didn't tie into the frame. So the problem with that is there's this big old rust hole there, and you can see where that plate was. And if you were to roll it over with the old cage, that A pillar is just gonna push through the body and fold this rust out, and that cage is gonna end up on top of your head.
And the Jeep's ruined.
And the Jeep's ruined. So, yeah. So we got these. They're called a stanchion bracket. These ones are from WFO.
WFO Concepts.
Yeah. And so this kind of helps us to be able, instead of having this A-pillar come down right here like the old one did, it was really hard to get your foot in and out. You couldn't use the parking brake at all. It was just kind of in the way. So we actually used this. So it has a brace down here and get a light on it. Yeah, so it kind of comes up here. So it's extra braced. It bolts in here. It bolts up into the cowl and everything. The windshield, to fold it down, bolts into there too. And then you bring the tube up off of it. So it's just, it might be like a race car or something, that's not going to be legal having something like this. But in this, it's plenty strong enough for what we're doing. And it just is a lot more ease of accessibility and stuff.
Well, and I'll bet you this cage right here, it's strong enough to hold up that car. And that car's 3,000 pounds heavier, Yeah. I think that if we roly-poly this, it's going to be just fine. Yeah. She might have some new dents, but we can keep having fun with the car, and Robert put the first goddamn dent in it, so it's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, and there's a couple other things I kind of want to do. Like after I went and test drove it today, and it feels a little naked next to your side right here. Like we maybe need to do like some tube doors or something, just a little bit more protection. But at least has this sidebar that can kind of help in a rollover and help triangulate the cage a little bit.
More of a guy that likes coolness over functionality. And these seats have the cool factor. They look just like, they're the factory replicas, or they're really close to a factory replica of the Jeep seats that came out. And it's just gonna ruin the Jeep. If you have a seat like this car over here, I'll show you the rock crawler over here. I'll show you what a real seat looks like, and then what's in that Jeep, the difference here. This is Bob, this is a Range Rover, this is like one of my rock crawlers that's been beat to death. This is an actual seat, so it holds you in on the corners here, and it makes you feel like really like a part of the car. And here's what's in. Yes, so there is 0 side bolster in this Jeep, but we did do harnesses, so we're gonna be held in. It's just it feels really weird.
Yeah. We also got his and hers, so when his wife's driving, he can feel at home over there in the pink ones.
Oh, thank you. All right, well, we covered the top of the cage. Let's move underneath the Jeep here and show how you tied this thing in to the Jeep frame.
So here, you can see the B-pillar ones first. So we put a 4-bolt flange plate, which I cut out on the Plas table. So there's a plate on both sides of the body. And then this tube welded here drops down and lands straight there on top of the frame. And then there's also some extra plates I put in just to kind of stiffen the frame right there on the side. And I did those underneath as well, which we can show here. So on the sliders, I kind of try to do, I still need to cap the end of these. As we said, we're kind of been in a hurry.
Finishing touches.
Finishing things. But yeah, kept them high and tight so we're not losing any ground clearance on the side. Yeah, and then just tubes down. And then you can see the plates here that I put in to stiffen the frame up. And then this big one across here. And then up here where the A-pillar comes down, there's another plate there, just like the B-pillar, and just this little connector tube in there. So if you roll it, all that force comes down and kind of transfers into the frame and just triangulates everything.
Yep. The goal is obviously be safe, but save the Jeep. Save it to where we can keep having fun.
For sure.
So we're going to take a break from the cage. We kind of covered that pretty well, and we're going to move on to the nitty-gritty of what's underneath this Jeep. We're going to start with the wheels and tires and the axles.
So we got the sticky Mickeys on these. They're actually, it's the Baja Pro X. They're actually a side-by-side tire, and they're a 32.
Now, I'm really proud about that, because we're used to what? 42s, 1 tons.
Like everything we do.
Like all these cars over here.
Yeah.
We got the dirty twos.
This is fun. It's fun. Yeah. And the trail ready beadlocks, and these, they are wide. As you can see, that beadlock ring sticks out there.
Well, here's the thing. They're not wide. The tire's just really small.
It's just really small.
Like that's an 8 wide. I measured that rim.
Oh, really?
It's 8 inches wide.
I was thinking they were 10s.
No, this is 10, and it barely pops out. So it's not that, it's the wheel makes it look really wide, It's not.
Oh yeah, didn't you set those with some starting fluid and a lighter?
Yes, I had to because I couldn't get them to set.
So I was adjusting the air pressure in them today, and one of them was a little high. I let some air out of it. I think I could still smell starting fluid in there.
Well, I had to get her done. All right, so we got turbo ready bead locks here, Baja Pro X's, sticky versions too, which I'm really excited to try out. The sticky version. Let's get into the axles and what we did to build those things up and get them ready, because honestly, Jeep parts from the factory are not very strong, especially with those things.
Yes. Sticky tires, anybody that's been in it, you know, like as soon as you get stickies, you start breaking stuff. So traditionally, you know, with our big tire stuff, it's not good to have a Dana 30. You pretty much throw those in the trash. But, you know, we're sticking to the small tires, and so we decided to work with what we got, keep it original, you know? It's kind of an original
It's only original
Jeep,
one time, right?
Yeah. So we got the Dana 30. We got gears from Revolution Gear, and we got...
Big shout out to those guys too. They hooked us up. That was awesome. They hooked us up with the aux lockers and their Revolution 488 gears.
Yeah, and this thing had 354s when we got it, so it is a big difference in gears. The aux locker is a cable actuated, so it just kind of has like a big fork inside that shifts over the locker, kind of similar to like a fork in a transfer case. So I think I'm really excited to see how they do and stuff, you know. So I mean, I've really only had experience with spools and stuff in the hardcore rock crawlers, so I'm really excited to see this, and having the selectable locker is really nice.
I think the only thing that I would have really loved to have on the Jeep would have been twin sticks. So I could have done front digs with it and, you know, got a little bit more crazy, I guess. But this will have to do.
We can do that. We can do that later.
Also, we got those, what axle brand were those again?
They're 10 Factory by Motive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those are the only ones that I could find that made those axles. Like, those are the only people that, because it's a narrow track Dana 30. It's not a super common item anymore. People throw these away. So this was the only company that I could find that builds 4340 chromoly axle shafts for this thing.
Yeah. So yeah, and then they're 35 spline they're 32 spline. Sorry.
32
See,
spline.
I'm used to Dana 60 stuff. 32 spline inner and outer. The outers, it had Warren hubs on it when we got it, like Warren locking hubs. And when I got them apart, they were actually broke. So we got these drive flanges, and they're made by Crown, which is one of the biggest Jeep manufacturers. So yeah, the caps and the drive flanges are Crown. So yeah, if anybody that's not familiar with a drive flange, those basically, instead of normally be able to like turn the hub out to unlock it so the wheel will free spin, now this just makes it solid from the axle shaft out to the spindle. So everything just spins. So your differential is always spinning, which, you know, on a highway rig is not great to have everything always spinning like that. But on something like this, when we're only off-road, it's the strongest thing you can do.
Yep. That's going to be real easy to repair, too, if we have spares. So real easy to fix. I want to show you guys the wiring here on the locker system and kind of show you how that works, because it's pretty trick on how aux makes these lockers actuate.
So as you saw underneath, there's just a cable coming out of the diff cover, and it comes up and over to here, and then this is just an electric actuator motor, and that's what pushes that cable in and out to lock it. And then, yeah, it's basically just like a power window motor or something like that, you know.
Why don't we actuate that thing? We can show them. Because it's electric, we can just turn the key on and show them how that works.
Yeah, key on here, and we put that in there, and then there you can hear it going in and out. Yep.
And what it's doing in there is there's a cable, a physical cable that runs all the way down to the diff, and the diff has a fork on it, kind of like in a transmission, and it moves a collar that locks it in or pulls it out, and that's what that cable's doing. I think. I could be totally wrong, but I think that's the theory of operations here.
Yeah. So, yeah, and other than that, yeah, we got the front one here, and then I was able to get the rear one all the way up here so we can have the motor up here on the firewall and like out of harm's way so it's not getting hit with anything. So Yeah, should be good. So rear axle, these came with the AMC 20. It's a 29 spline axle shaft. So again, we went with the 10 factory by Motive shafts on the back, and they're chromoly. And these actually stock had a hub with a spline in it, and just a straight axle shaft that splined out with a nut on the end of it.
The famous AMC 20 two-piece axle shaft.
Yeah, and those do not come off. Let me tell you, because I tried, because I needed to get the brake backing plates off
I
to put on these ones.
I warned you about that.
Oh yeah, I got one of them off, and it was real scary. You know, in the press with a 4-foot bar on it, and then torch, and that thing with the rosebud torch on it, and it was white hot and would not move. I got one of them off, but the other one, I ended up getting a little more creative and got it off. So, you know, saved the backing plates.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and this one has the same aux locker, and it has the same cable that actuates it. Right? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's that's a way better look. You want to get the light for them, and that's a way better look at how that cable actually functions. So, I'll let you explain it. So there's the cable.
Yeah, so a cable just comes in here, and then inside there's just a collar, like a little half U shape, you know, and then a collar on the diff, and then that thing just slides it back and forth when you actuate the motors.
Yeah, so it's basically like an open diff when you're not actuating the locker.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. A couple little quirks here I noticed. The guy that owned this Jeep, it was a one-owner Jeep, bought it brand new in '78. And he welded on a bunch of random stuff and made a little bit extra work for you. But this is kind of cool. USA steel right here. That ain't going nowhere.
How about the, I think, is this a piece of I-beam?
Yeah.
Some kind of bolted together I-beam there? Yeah. She's legit.
I know, but we couldn't ruin the charm of the Jeep. We could have easily done a bob and, you know,
put 60s on
it
and done all that, but, you know, kind of just needs to stay this way, you know. It's got charm to it. It's quirky. Speaking of quirky, you know, I went in, got these nice battery cables, got all this stuff done. I went to tighten down the battery cables and realized that the whole battery mount is broken on the backside. It's like, oh yeah, it's mounted here, but yeah, the backside's not, so I think we're just gonna throw a ratchet strap around that for EJS.
Yeah, a couple little things that, you know, we got to make some sacrifices. And my biggest sacrifice was, hey, when I gave you this Jeep, the sprayers worked, the windshield wipers worked. The windshield wipers are still there, and the mechanism is still there.
Yeah, it's all still there, but this tube, the tube we put in here, you know, we're being safe. So the wiper motor goes in right here, and the actual motor part is right where this tube needed to go. So, you know.
Windshield wipers or?
Yeah, or the cage. So, you know, I went with cage.
That was a smart choice.
Worst case, you go like Ace Ventura style and just stick your head out.
Exactly.
It'll work. So I was in here trying to fit the dash and move some things around to get the stanchion brackets in, and I was banging on the dash, and lo and behold, something fell out on the floor, and it was a spare key holder. So we found the Haida key, just in case.
So in a funny story about that, when I first got this Jeep, that is not the original steering column.
I don't think that's original, or it wasn't the last ignition switch either, was it?
So I think that so when I bought this, the ignition was blown out of that because they couldn't find the key when the estate sale happened. So they blew the ignition out and ruined the column, and I put another one in it from another Jeep. And you find the dang keys behind the dash.
So, you know, you should go over on the other side and let me know what this is. So I'm trying to, you know, here's the ignition switch. Well, what about this one down here?
Oh, okay. I can tell you exactly what that was. Ready? That is the key for this button right here. And what that did was those were the old solenoids for the winch.
Oh.
This was the winch switch right here. You would go up and down, and it would actuate the winch motor.
Nice.
And the key would shut it off. That was his safety that he made.
Sweet. Yeah, you know, you just didn't want anybody to winch your car away. You can pull the key out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's fire this thing up and show them how well this thing runs on that Holley Sniper EFI system.
So yeah, letting the fuel pump prime. Well, that wasn't a good one for it.
Oh no.
Now I did it.
Does it not run anymore?
There we go.
Oh, is it good now?
Quirky.
Oh, she's good.
She's good now.
Runs great.
Runs perfect. No, nothing at all.
So now that we nailed all of the modifications that we've done to this Jeep, let's go over some of the quirks that we left on the Jeep from the original owner.
Quirk number one. You guys all saw that there's a 4.2 liter in there. What's the how many cubic inches is the
258.
258, yeah. So really curious why there's 304 badges on it.
And I verified it was not a V8 Jeep. It was definitely a 258 Jeep.
So I think the guy just wanted to look cool from the outside. So, you know,
And
it's got a Flowmaster on it.
And it's got headers.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He wanted that sound, but he didn't want the fuel economy.
Oh, yeah. But I do think it's really cool that he bought it original 1978 in Reno. And then he's got the Reno four-wheelers look badge on here. That thing's definitely staying forever.
100%. And well, this sticker too, I'll bet you, I would be willing to make you a $20 bet that this thing has run the Rubicon more than once.
Yeah, I would not bet that.
Like, I guarantee this is like and we can't, unfortunately, we cannot ask the guy these questions. And I'd love to have a conversation with, because I'll bet you this Jeep has so many stories to tell if it could talk.
Oh, yeah.
This thing would talk all day about all the fun adventures that it's been on. And these stickers show it. I'll bet you this thing's been all around the Pacific Northwest wheeling.
I bet it has. I think he was a radio nerd too, because it had dual whip antennas back here at one point. And there was an RF booster amplifier underneath the hood, too.
Oh, yeah, what happened to that thing?
It's sitting in the parts box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Supposedly those are not legal anymore or something like that.
I don't know, man.
So, one thing that when I bought the Jeep that I thought was really cool were these, like, slider things. So, I know that you added sliders here, but I'm pretty sure that the guy built little sliders for this Jeep back in the day.
Pretty cool with the countersunk screws and everything.
Like, he took some time building this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
We do see a couple Jeepy things on here.
Which, you know, these steps, that's pretty Jeepy, but actually I kind of do like them because then I can keep the sliders in nice and tight. You know, if we had some big old wide axles, you could put a bigger slider and have a nice step and stuff, but since we're keeping it narrow, it's kind of nice to just flip these guys up.
Yeah, perfect. And every Jeep or every old school four-wheel drive has to have that sticker.
Either that or the gas, grass, or ass, you know?
Yeah, he's got those. I would say, though, that for Jeepiness, it's like a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I think this guy was a cool wheeling guy. I bet he was a cool dude to hang out with.
The Jeep, you know, it had some battle scars, but he definitely took care of it. And I'm very happy to keep the legacy alive. Hopefully he's not rolling around in his grave right now going, what did you do to our Jeep?
Yeah, we're trying to keep it somewhat original, just make it a little safer, bring it a little into the 21st century, you know.
Well, I think you did a great job with it. And if you guys are in the Central Oregon area and you want work like this done to your vehicle, make sure to hit this guy up. He does great work, decently priced too. And he got it done on time, and I love the quality of the work here. I'm super happy to go wheel this thing, super confident because I know it's right. Where are they going to contact you?
So my website is mtnviewmotorsports.com. So
and that will be in the description.
Yeah, we'll add that in. Just really excited to get this thing out, and yeah, I'm glad we got it fixed up good, except for the rear main seal that looks like it's starting to leak again after my little test run today, so gonna have to warranty that one out for Quentin, unfortunately.
That's okay. We'll get it fixed after EJS so I can have some fun first, and we'll get it all taken care of.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna wrap the video up right here. I'm really happy to have this Jeep for EJS 2025, and if you're gonna be out there, hit me up. I would love to meet you guys and possibly go wheeling. I'm gonna be out there the 12th through, I don't know exactly how long, but I'll be out there for a pretty long time, and it would be awesome to go meet you guys and go wheeling. So, as always, thank you for watching my videos. If you thought it was entertaining, give it a thumbs up. If you got any more questions about the Jeep, throw it down in the comment section, and I will see you in the next one.